Welcome everyone. My name is Deanna Wolf, and I am a former Philadelphia Eagles cheerleader for the past 4 seasons. And I guess I can kind of go into a little bit about my experience, how I actually got to the NFL, because it was a long process. It was an interesting journey, and something that I like to share with others, because if it's something that it's a passion of yours, I highly recommend staying with something that's your goal. And I feel like with hard work and dedication, anything is possible. So I grew up in Marlton, New Jersey, and I was all involved in so many different sports. I played soccer, hockey, lacrosse. I was involved in everything. And one of my close girlfriends was a cheerleader. And, she was doing all these flips, and it was so exciting. And it wasn't something that I was easily able to pick up. And so that's how I ended up getting started. I joined her, and we were doing all-star cheerleading. If any of you guys are familiar with like Bring It On movie, that is kind of similar to my journeys to starting cheerleading. And through there, I cheered throughout middle school and high school. And then it was ready for college. And I remember applying to all these different colleges, and I really wanted to get away. I wanted to go to Florida. And last minute, I didn't want to leave my mom, and I luckily applied to Rutgers University right in New Brunswick, New Jersey. And it worked out with timing that I was able to try out for the cheerleading squad there, and I made it. So I was on the all-girl squad, which was great. I learned so much there. So it was more stunting and tumbling. So really that cheerleader aspect. And from there, I graduated college, and I loved cheering. I loved the community of women that I met and the friendships that I gained. And I knew, leaving college and going and having a career was obviously the next step in life, but I still wanted to continue with my passion and love for cheering. So that's when I started looking into NFL cheerleading. And if you guys are familiar with NFL cheerleading, it's not the cheerleading that you normally think of when you talk about Bring It On. They are very much dancers. So there's not a lot of stunting, there's not tumbling. So it's interesting because when you hear about an NFL cheerleader, a lot of people associate it with all-star cheering, which is stunts and tumbling. However, it is actually it's more NFL dancers where you're doing more dancing. So that was my biggest hurdle, because I was not a dancer. I didn't know, how to do a turn. I was calling them spins. So if anyone is a professional dancer, you know that you never call a turn a spin. So it was a huge learning curve for me. But one of the greatest things about it is whether you're trying out for an NFL team, an NBA team, they always have workshops, and these workshops help you get involved and kind of learn what the dynamic is for that specific squad, and just to get your comfort. So that's what I did. I started with the Eagles, and I was completely out of place, from what to wear and what to do, and learning these 8 counts with like a snap of a finger, and you have hundreds of women all around you. It was very overwhelming. And so that was my first experience. And from the Eagles, I then tried out for the Jets. And, the New York Jets was great. It was a different audition process where, that you did a freestyle, and that's how you made it to the next section. So I had my pom-poms, I was doing backflips because that's what I knew. And I made it further, but I obviously didn't make the Jet squad. And then I came across it was a minor league football team called the Prancers. So it was a small town in the middle of nowhere, New Jersey, about 2.5 hours from my hometown in Jersey, where that's pretty far, 2.5 hours to drive to rehearsals. However, it was such a great stepping stone for me to learn the professional like cheerleading world, because I call it cheerleading because it's really dancing. And luckily enough, my choreographer, she was part of the NBA, and our coach was actually an NFL cheerleader for the Jets. So they really groomed all of us women. There was about 12 to 15 of us. And so that's how I started to learn what dancing was and learning the different techniques and how to pick up on choreography. And it was fun. I made a lot of great friends. It was, I put in a lot of time. So, when we had rehearsals from, I think we had practice like 7 to 9. So I wasn't getting home till like 11 o'clock at night. And at this time I was working full time. So it was, very demanding, but it was such a great experience and opportunity to just get my feet wet in the professional dance world. And then came tryouts for the AFL. So AFL is Indoor Football League, which unfortunately the Philadelphia Soul, the team I was a part of, we were called the Soulmates. They folded recently. So it's a shame now, but looking back, it was an amazing opportunity for me. It was right in Philadelphia. A lot of these players actually, go back and forth between the Canadian Football League as well as the NFL. It's like a stepping stone for them. And so this was a really cool experience. I'd already had some different opportunities with trying out, because throughout this time I was still trying out for the Eagles and Jets and hoping maybe one day I could figure it out. And so from there I made the Philadelphia Soul, and that was back in 2010. So it was an amazing experience. And to this day, a lot of the girls that I made the squad with are my best friends. One of them was my maid of honor. A few of them were in my bridal party, and, we're very close to this day. We call ourselves the Soulmates. We were very fortunate to have such a close bond together when we made it. We're all around the same age group. And you meet these women from all over, all different backgrounds. We just shared this vested interest in wanting to be a cheerleader and a dancer in a professional setting. And so it was exciting, and being able, I think, to interact with the local Philadelphia community. So in the AFL, if you guys aren't familiar, our home base was at the Wells Fargo Center, which if you're from the surrounding area, you probably know that's where the Philadelphia Flyers play and the 76ers. And so that's where we would host our games. They were all indoor, and they were very much family friendly, super affordable. So all these little kids, and, were so nice, and they come up and say, I want to be like you when I'm older. And it was so wonderful to be able to be a role model to other young women and even little boys, just, who wanted to dance and love to cheer and spread that positivity. And especially being out in the community, one of the biggest things with being a part of the Philadelphia Soul and later on the Eagles was the philanthropic work that we would do. Sorry, I can't speak today. It's like Thursday. My head's shot from work. But we would do so much community outreach, whether it was, any type of event in the community or giving back, like going to CHOP, the Children's Hospital of Philadelphia, and just providing, a smile on someone's face. It was really exciting to be able to give back, because, I see myself as Deanna. I'm just like anybody else walking down the street. And when you put on this uniform, you're like a superhero. You turn into somebody who, that people are, oh my gosh, can I have your autograph? And I look back at it now, it's so heartwarming that, people are like, wow, they're seeing the cheerleader. They're not, oh my, I want to see Deanna. But it's so warming. And the fans, they come back and they're like, oh, Deanna, they're waving to you and talking to you. And it's very warming. And so to go back to the Philadelphia, so I cheered with them for, 2 years. That was 2010, 11, 12. And then, I was like, I'm getting older. I really want to see if I can now take all this experience from the minor leagues to the AFL and bring it to the NFL. Let's see what I can do. And in 2013, I tried out for the Philadelphia Eagles. It was a nerve-wracking process in the sense that you had to retire or resign from the Philadelphia Soul in order to try out for an NFL squad. So just because of how the seasons go, and you don't want to try out for the Soul, take another woman's spot, and then end up leaving, when you make an NFL squad. So, the audition process was very intense, but one of the greatest things that I respect about the Philadelphia Eagles and the organization as how they run it is they have these prep classes. And I highly recommend it to, anybody interested in joining an NFL team. Most, if not all of them, have these prep classes. I know times are changing now with COVID, and they just had the first ever virtual audition process for the Eagles. But it's an audition workshop. And so what ends up happening is you sign up for this workshop, and during the workshop, they'll actually teach you the audition dance. So that didn't happen in 2013, but that's what they do now. And you get to learn the dance before anybody else does. And so a low stress environment, you're there. You also have a workshop where they'll break you out for hair and makeup. So they'll teach you what is the Philadelphia Eagles look. The look for the Philadelphia Eagles is going to be different than if you're trying out for the New York Jets, or, if you're a Dallas Cowboy cheerleader. They're all different. Then they have a next section, which kind of tells you what to wear. So what would you show up with to and wear for an audition? Do you wear sneakers? Do you wear dance shoes, ballet shoes? They kind of give you all of that insight so that when you come to the audition, you're fully prepared and ready to go. And then the best part that I liked was the question and answer, which you would usually assign us vets to the question and answer. And that was my favorite part, because like the forum that we have today, a lot of interested, women and men that wanted to be on the squad, they got to ask questions about our experience and how we got there, and what could they do, or any suggestions and tips. And, at the end of the day, I was one of them sitting in their shoes before. So I loved having that interaction and being able to help. And it was so rewarding for me to, see these women go through the process of becoming an NFL cheerleader and asking those questions, and then, eventually becoming my teammate. So I highly suggest the prep classes. I think they prepare you better than anything for any type of audition if they offer it. And it also gets your name out there too. So you're meeting some of the vets, you'll meet, the director and the choreographer while you're there. So it always helps put, your best foot forward. One of the things too is that, you might go to a workshop and think, oh, I'm just going to come here and go through the motions. You're constantly on. So from the second you walk in that door to the second you leave, all eyes are on you. So one of the biggest things is no gum. You don't want to chew gum. You want to come in kind of clean and prepared, looking the part. So one of the biggest things is with any job is doing research, right? And so if you're interested in being a Philadelphia Eagles cheerleader, for instance, then it would help to probably go online and see what the cheerleaders look like. What does their uniform look like? What do they wear? Are they wearing, a two-piece outfit, or do they wear a dress? And so what does their makeup look like? Are they wearing red lipstick? Are there bows in their hair? Do they have it tied back? All of those types of things are research that you could do to try and, utilize that for how you want to look for auditions. And so that's kind of one of the things that we did. And so becoming an Eagles cheerleader for me, and I actually had auditioned 3 times before I made the squad. So my first time that I made the squad, I made it the first day. So the first day they broke us out. There was about 600 girls. And this was before we had men in the NFL, which is so exciting. That just happened last year. So before I retired. And so they have you go out and you do the dance, and then they do a cut. And then that group that's left, which was about 200, then they did the dance again in groups of 5, and then they had to cut again. So both times that I tried out, I got cut on those second tries. And I remember my mom and brother picking me up, and I was so upset. But at the end of the day, I think having the confidence to just put yourself out there. At the end of the day, you really have nothing to lose other than a couple hours out of your day. You're meeting people, you're putting yourself, in a great environment. You're getting to go to the Eagles Stadium, which was awesome. They showed us all around the stadium, and we got to see the Eagles cheerleader locker room. So at the end of the day, I think, I always tell women, just getting to the audition process, that's you should be so proud of yourself, because you're putting yourself out there and you're giving yourself a chance to do something that maybe you normally wouldn't do. And everybody is so nice. I think there's sometimes that feeling of being judged, or maybe it being more of a clique per se. And to be honest, when I ever walked into that audition, I always walked out with more people that I knew than when I came. And everybody was so nice, like, you know, sharing makeup, which probably isn't that good to do nowadays with things, but, you know, sharing like a curling iron or a mirror, or saying, hey, will you watch me do this dance really quick? Like, what do you think? It's just, it's really warming and nice that everybody that's there is not competing against each other. They're competing, you know, for a spot on the squad, but all want to uplift one another to get there. So I don't know. I always left, even though I was disappointed when I didn't make it to that third round. I still left there feeling very excited and proud of myself for putting myself out there. And luckily, third time's a charm. And when I tried out, it was unbelievable. You know, you make it through that second round. It's a long day. I mean, it was probably, we showed up around like 8 a.m. and didn't finish until close to 4. You know, they announce your number and you go up and you're just like screaming because it's so exciting. And you're looking around for your girlfriends that you made and you hope that they made it too. And you get the packet and you go to the semifinals audition. And so that's when it even gets more intense. So at that point, you learn a different dance. And you're split up in between 2 groups and you learn that dance. And then from there, you actually perform it on a stage. And so from there, there were season ticket holders that actually got to vote, as well as all of the judges. And I remember, I think how they did it before, because everything's changed a little bit since I made the squad originally, where you would have a separate link and you can go and see your name and number. So you get an email. And I remember I'd have my phone and I'd be, you know, waiting, did we get it? Did we get it? We're all, you know, texting each other back and forth. You get an email, you get an email. And I made it through semifinals. And I was like, oh, you know, I'm so excited. My mom, who's my biggest cheerleader, you know, she's getting me all excited, but I'm trying not to get my hopes up throughout the whole thing. And I was really excited. So then you have an interview process. So one of the biggest things is, and especially with the Philadelphia Eagles organization, they hold themselves into really high standards. You know, you're protecting a brand, and the Philadelphia Eagles is a big brand, and they do so much community outreach, a lot with autism and giving back to the Philadelphia community, that they really want to make sure that you can represent their organization in the best possible light. And so they have an interview process, and, you know, different women had different strengths. And so, you know, obviously dance wasn't my biggest strength. I wasn't the girl that was in the front row. I wasn't a captain leading the squad, but I was probably, I think every year I got voted most spirited. So I was always that girl that was, you know, very uplifting and encouraging. And I did a lot of public speaking. I just felt very comfortable in front of the camera. And so that was one of the things that they kind of offered. And so you would go into a private room and wearing business casual, and you would sit with a few other women, and they'd ask you questions, just a little bit about yourself, maybe about your resume, your experience. And then from there, they would actually cut the audition process down to 60 women. And then that's now men. Sorry, I keep saying women, but I know things are changed now. And then we competed at the Kimball Center. And that was a live audition process where, you know, all 60 of us were on stage individually doing a fitness portion, to the dance portion, and then to the question and answer, which was a random question from an audience member or from one of the panelists that you just had to answer on the spot and feel comfortable with. And from there, my year, at least in 2013 and 14, you actually got an email that night if you made the squad. Where the last 2 seasons I did it, they announced it right on stage, which is pretty exciting because you have all your family members and everyone there, and you're able to really celebrate as opposed to getting an email. So it was really rewarding for me. And, you know, I got to cheer for 4 whole seasons. I think, you know, I love football. That is one of my biggest passions. I'm a huge football lover. So I had to always mind what I was doing, because oftentimes, you know, I would find myself watching the game and getting really into it and realizing, you know, Deanna, you're cheering, you know, get your pom-poms going, pay attention to the dance. So that's, you know, that was really my experience. And I retired right before they won the Super Bowl. But it was, you know, I had 4 great seasons, and I made some of the best friends that I've ever, you know, had. Some of the girls that I cheer with on the Eagles, they were also in my wedding as well. And, you know, we're all really, really close. And, you know, same thing with the Philadelphia Soul, all different backgrounds, all different interests that kind of just coming together to share our passion for dance and cheering. So to me, it was just really rewarding. I loved it. And it's, you know, it's crazy to look back now and think, wow, like, you know, that was over 3 years ago. But I still have a lot of the girls that were on the squad when I was are still there. We keep close contact now with, you know, social media. Things are a little bit easier to keep in contact with everyone. And it's just, it makes me so proud to be a part of not only the NFL, but specifically the Philadelphia Eagles and what they've been able to give back to the community, what they embrace and embody now, especially having 3 male cheerleaders just made it onto the squad. It's really exciting and a fun time. I mean, a little bit uncertain with how things will happen and will we have an NFL season, what that looks like. But at the end of the day, it's, you know, it really was an incredible opportunity for me. And that's just a little bit about my journey. So I always, you know, stress to, you know, to anybody that I talk to is if you have a dream, don't give up on it. If I gave up on it, then I would never be where I am at today. You know, it took me 3 times. I know there's 2 other girls that they had to audition 3 times. I actually know 2 girls that auditioned 4 times until they made it. And I think it just shows your dedication to really wanting to fulfill this dream of yours and passion. And, you know, I think with anything like hard work and dedication can really help you, you know, achieve those dreams if that's something that you really want. So with that being said, we have some questions that I want to make sure I get to. So if anybody has any in here, I'm going to start. So let's see. Is there an age limit? There's not actually. So there's you have to be 18 years of age or older and have graduated high school. So that is one of the requirements to audition. But as far as an age limit, there's not. I'm not sure if any of you guys have seen, I think it was the Saints. There was a woman, she was a mother. She had 2 young boys. I think they were like 7 and 11. And she told her husband, this is my lifelong dream. I just want to try it and go out for it. And she was 42 and made the NFL. So there's no age limit of a restriction on that, but you do at least have to be 18 and graduate high school. What is one of the most memorable moments you have cheering with the Eagles? I'd have to go back to, you know, the opening day. So it was opening day of 2013, coming out as a rookie. And, you know, you still have the 2 preseason games, which is, it's still great. It's exciting. There's a lot of fans and everyone there. But that first home game was just, like, I get the chills, like watching the national anthem and seeing, you know, the Eagles soar over. To me, it still gives me the chills. It's your first time really stepping on the field as a regular season game. And I remember I had to pinch myself, like, is this real? Like, am I really here? And having, you know, my family in the crowd. And even though I couldn't really see them and I knew they were up in the corner somewhere, to me, that was probably the most memorable moment that I had with the Eagles. Does learning styles can be acceptable? Not sure what you mean by that. Does learning styles can be acceptable? If you want to retype that question just so I can better understand, I'm sorry, Megan. Can you audition at the age of 24 or 25? Yes, I was actually 25 when I first auditioned for the squad. So yes, you can. Let's see. Thank you for sharing your story. This is so cool. So with Philly being known as one of the loudest stadiums and enthusiastic fan bases, what was it like adapting to the stadium that size and that volume? Is there any specific on-field scenario you can recall where you really felt the pressure of the game? So yeah, so going from the AFL squad, right, and the AFL team with an indoor league to the NFL, it's a lot bigger. So number one, at least you're outdoors. So pending on the weather inclements, you're sometimes in better weather versus not. But what happens is you're on a squad. So there was 39 of us that were on the team at each time, but we were broken up between 8 cheerleaders on each side. So to me, I think the hardest thing was, constantly paying attention to my captain, because they would lead the different cheers or the dances that we were doing, and you had to constantly be paying attention and like looking over at your side, make sure you're standing in line and doing it, while also, you have the game going on right behind you, which is crazy. You have fans yelling at you. So I think it's not yelling. I mean, they're like, go Eagles, and, cheerleaders and yelling. So I think it's just paying attention and staying, in the mindset of what you're doing. And at the end of the day, like, you want to cheer, you want to dance. You spent all these hours practicing and learning all the moves that you want to have that fun. So I think, the field scenario and just being right immersed in all of it has just been probably my favorite part, and cheering on the game, but then turning around. And it took some getting used to. I mean, you mess up a little bit in the beginning until you get comfortable with it, but at the same token, it's something that you'll easily pick up when you're out there, just because you practice so much with it. Do you recommend taking dance classes on top of being a competitive cheerleader for young girls aspiring to be an NFL cheerleader? So I think taking dance classes always helps, right? And so you're always broadening your horizon, your experience into what you can do. So, our NFL cheerleader dance was a little bit different, right? It wasn't trained ballet, it wasn't tap or hip hop, but it was a mixture of it all. And so I think taking dance classes helps because you're learning quick counts really fast, that it gets your brain and your body physically able to do those types of moves. I think now too, one of the greatest things is there's so many different studios that are out there. If you guys are located in this Northeast area, there's so many different studios where you have retired NFL cheerleaders that actually teach classes. And so you can kind of get in their style of dance, and you can learn it too, where it's maybe like a hip hop or a jazz funk. So I always suggest taking dance classes, getting a part of maybe whether it's the Philadelphia Eagles, junior cheer camps, anything like that your team would offer. It's all great experience to help prepare you. Let's see. When you walk onto the field first time, how'd you make you feel? I kind of answered this. I had the chills. It was riveting. I mean, the amount of excitement and the power. I mean, the NFL and the Philadelphia Eagles, it was wild. I would do it over and over again. And I wish I could film myself actually walking onto the field for that first time. But there's nothing like it, 40,000 fans screaming and, the smoke going up. It's just incredible. So, yeah, Lynn, you're bringing me back. Can learning styles be required? Okay, so maybe that goes back. So there's no requirement to having dance training, or, hey, did you experience, how many years of dance training have you had? There isn't. You could have zero experience, and be welcomed into the NFL. Like for me, for instance, I wasn't really a dancer, so I didn't have any experience. Where there's some women that come in and all they did was dance. Like that's their life, was dance, dance, dance. Where others were cheerleaders. So they come from, a cheerleading background, but you don't have to have any experience. And I think that's one of the biggest things that we always encourage women who are trying out, is that you could literally have zero experience at all, and become an NFL cheerleader. There's nothing that requires you to have a certain amount of experience to be, or to make the squad. Everybody has the same fair shot. What do you wish more people knew about cheer? This is a great question, Abigail. So I think one of the biggest things is a lot of people think that it's our full-time job and that's all we do. And one of the things that the Eagles strives is that you should have a full-time job. And I would think, how I refer to the Eagles and my career there was, it was a full-time job, or full-time commitment, but a part-time job. So all of us on the squad, we had full-time jobs, or we were in school full-time. So it wasn't like we were just Eagles cheerleaders. We were, you know, I have my girlfriend's a PA. There were lawyers on the squad, teachers. I do medical device sales. So I think a lot of individuals out there don't realize that we're all very much well educated. We are professionals, and that cheerleading is just something that we love to do, and it's a hobby of ours that we supplement in with our full-time jobs or careers or schooling that we're doing. And I think a lot of people are really surprised by that. Yeah, so Irene asked if you have to try out each year. Yes, your position is not guaranteed. So every year you do have to try out. Do you think physical appearance matters more than dance ability as to whether you make the squad? I wouldn't think that one matters more than the other. I mean, I think it goes hand in hand. When you're cheering, you know, for 5 hours for a football game, you know, you have to have that physical endurance to be able to keep up, especially in the high inclement weathers. You know, I mean, you're talking 90 degrees out and you're dancing and it's a lot, and you're out there for each quarter with minimal water breaks. So I think you have to be physically in shape to be able to endure, number one, all the long practices, all the long hours, and then for game day. But I think both kind of go hand in hand together. You're welcome, Jen. Let's see. Awesome. I think that might be it. I might have gotten everyone's questions. If there's anything last minute, you know, feel free to kind of type it in. Oh, here's one. How long are practices? So our rehearsals, we had ours 2 nights a week from 7 to 10. For me, like I said, I am not the strongest dancer on the squad, so I always got to practice early, and I tried to stay a little bit late. So if you learned something on a Tuesday, you kind of had to know it for Wednesday's rehearsal. So they were about 3-hour rehearsals, 2 nights a week. And, you know, it's fun. It is work, right? So you're not there, you know, kind of talking, and you can have a little bit of a water break, but it is work for those 3 hours. But 6 hours a week really wasn't bad. And it's a great workout too. You know, you're dancing, you're in the studio, you're learning new moves. So for me, that wasn't as bad, where I know some of the girls that were on the Cowboys, the Dallas Cowboys, obviously biggest rivals here for the Eagles, but not their cheerleading squad. We all get along really well. I think they rehearse every night. So every team has different requirements and have different stipulations as far as practice. But we had 2 practices a week, and then if we needed to on the weekend, if there was some choreography we weren't learning. I thank you guys all so much for coming and signing into the workshop today, taking time out of your day to learn a little bit about me and my experience. It was an honor, and I hope I provide a little bit of value and insight to your Thursday. Thank you everyone for joining.